Did you ever wonder how we got started in expediting? Well, we're going to tell you all about that coming up right after this.
Hi everybody, I'm Judy.
And I'm Jim.
Welcome to It's a Highway Vlog.
And we'd like to welcome you to this series of videos that we'd like to call All About Our Expediting Trucking Business. We're going to try to share some information with you, a little bit of our experience from the last 8 years that we've been doing this as owner-operators with FedEx Custom Critical. Just take into account, this is our experience, and your mileage may certainly vary. So here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to our series of videos. We are going to call this All About Our Expediting Trucking Business. And this first video is how we got started in expediting. So to give you a little bit of background information, Judy and I are leased on to FedEx Custom Critical. We own our truck, so we're owner operators. And we've owned our truck for about 5 years. Before that, we drove for fleet owners for 3 years. So we started expediting back in 2011. And
a very long time ago.
It seems like a long time ago. But so we've been doing this for a while, so we wanted to do a series of videos to try to sort of share our, I don't know, what limited knowledge we have, and just to tell you a little bit about what we do in our business and everything. Over the years, we had folks that helped us out when we were getting started.
So we want to pay it forward.
And we're paying it forward, trying to help out some folks. Maybe you're just new to expediting, or maybe you're looking at getting into expediting. And so we just wanted to share our experiences.
Or maybe you've been in expediting and were wondering what it was like 8 years ago when we first started.
Right, because we've sort of creeped into the category of old timers now,
haven't we? We can't use that we're new anymore. Although I try it with dispatchers every once in a while.
We try that every now and then.
It doesn't work very
well. Anyway, to give you a background, Judy and I, prior to this, we worked in education. And specifically, Judy was in gifted education. And I actually worked in what was called educational technology, where I took care of computers and worked for various things with computers, setting them up and maintaining them and setting up systems and getting software loaded on them. But to start out with, we worked for the North Central Ohio Educational Service Center, which is basically what a lot of people would call the County Board of Education. We worked there for, Judy worked there for several years, and I started, and then after a little bit of time, there was some funding changes, and Judy's position was cut way down. My position was actually eliminated, and so we did what most everybody else would do. We started our own school.
Along with all the rest of the people who we worked with. There
were two folks. Judy was a what they called a gifted education coordinator, her and another lady, and then there were 7 teachers, I believe, on staff. There were 7.
No, there's 7 of us all together.
Oh, yeah. 7, 5 teachers. So everybody went to the charter school. So we started a charter school there in our hometown, and we worked there for 7 years. We sort of became a little bit disillusioned, despondent with the way education was going. And so we had always talked about, hey, when we retire, maybe we'll get in an RV and travel around the country.
Because that's what a lot of educators do.
That's what a lot of people do.
They get their own RVs and start traveling the country to learn about everything they taught about.
So, I started looking after a little ways. I'm sort of a person that doesn't like to sit in one spot for too long anyway. So I started looking into doing something along those lines, and I sort of hit upon expedited trucking as something to do. And Judy and I finally got to the point after 7 years, we just decided we were going to go ahead and do this. Our children were off in college.
Yep.
Some things happened, and we just decided we'd just make a clean break and go on with our next venture. My background, my father was a truck driver. He owned his own trucks for many years. I actually drove briefly a long time ago, before you even had to have a CDL license.
Chauffeur's license.
Chauffeur. And so this is something that sort of interested me. I'm not really for sure how I actually stumbled upon expediting. I was sort of looking at something else. but I did find Expediting, and I first looked at van expediting.
Yeah, because you didn't think I would like to drive a big truck.
No, I did not think she would want to drive a big truck. I knew she would not want to drive a tractor and trailer. The straight trucks, I just sort of, you know, they were a truck, so I didn't pay that much attention. So I started looking at the vans, and I discovered a website online, and it's still there. It's, I guess, probably the best resource for people that are looking to get into expediting for various reasons. It's called expeditersonline.com.
And it has all different carriers on it, not just who we're leased onto.
The one nice thing about it, there's information there on the website itself, but probably the best thing that was on that website was the forum, and it was called the Open Forum. It's still there. I think everyone pretty much that was on that forum was actually, you know, doing expediting. That was their career. That was their job.
And this was back in the day before social media, just with the groups and everything took off. It was back when forums were a big deal, and everybody was on the forums.
Yeah, back in those, you know, ancient days,
Ice
10
Age.
years ago. This was probably in 2009. So I got onto the forum. Started reading all the posts, people talking about expediting. I will say that the forum, I think, was more geared towards van expediting than it was straight truck. But there were people on there that were in straight trucks too. And so I read the post. They always suggested, you know, go back and read all the posts. Well, that's what I did. I went and read all the posts.
The book that it was.
Some really good information there. Over time, I started talking to some folks that were there on the forum. Through the forum, you know, conversations there, and then eventually I got to where I got interested enough that I actually made contact and called a few people. And I learned more and more about it, and I became more and more interested. And by this time, I had sort of started to tell Judy about my, you know, evil plans for our feature.
And I just shook my head.
She said,
"You're nuts.
You're nuts. I'm never going to do that." And I was just like, okay, well.
Biggest thing I ever drove was a 13-passenger van.
Yeah.
That was when I was much younger and worked at a daycare center.
But see, I knew Judy could do this because for most of our married life, and we've been married for 30 years, Judy has driven everywhere. In our personal vehicles, on our way to work, everywhere Judy drives. Because Judy gets car sick if she rides.
I do.
She gets
it's
car
amazing
sick.
that I don't take over all the hours now.
Yeah. She gets car sick in this truck. When she gets done driving, she goes to bed.
That's how I deal with being motion sickness.
She
I
doesn't
sleep.
sit up front. So anyway, I was just like, well, you know, she could drive. I know she's a good driver, you know. So anyway, we did a little bit more research. I got like I said, contact with some folks that were in straight trucks, because at this point in time, I sort of looked at, you know, do we really want us two larger folks to be traveling around the country in a little van where we don't have any space? And, you know, I'd seen the pictures of the big sleepers in these trucks, and I'm like, I think that's the way I want to go. And it was a truck, and, you know, that was sort of a little nostalgia for my father and what he did. And so we just sort of moved forward gradually and slowly. I think the first time it really hit Judy that we might actually do this, one of the folks that I was in contact with on Expediters Online had a blog at the time, and I had went through and read his blog, every post, and it just so happened.
Jim, by the way, is an avid reader. He reads a lot at a time, and me, it takes me a lot longer.
Well, anyway, these folks, and they're retired off the road now, but they had a blog. And I knew that they were going to be they had been to Toledo to have some work done. They had a load that was picking up around Columbus. And so I invited them to church through the Expediters Online forum. And I got to talking with him, and he said, well, sure, we'll come and go to church with you guys. So
and their question was, can we park the big truck there?
And
well, of course you can.
Of course you can park the truck. So they came, went to church with us. Had a very nice time, went out to dinner, spent about 3 hours in the restaurant. I'm sure the waitresses were wondering if we were ever going to leave. Had a great time with them, came back, took a tour of their truck. You know, they had a beautiful, big 132-inch sleeper. It was really, really nice.
He had his own office and his sleeper.
It was gorgeous. Beautiful truck. And so, you know, we talked a little bit longer. And I think Judy sort of got a little interested in, like, well, I can do this. That truck's not that big. And so we sort of stayed in touch with some folks, and the more we talked about it, the more we decided we were going to do it. Now, our children had all graduated from high school at this point in time, and they were off in college, and so they were out doing their own thing, and we were sort of like, hey, maybe we ought to go do this.
Most parents deal with the empty nest syndrome. We just decided we just go along and empty it all together.
Yeah. Let's just get rid of the nest. But we didn't. We still have the nest.
Yeah.
So to make a long story short, which I guess we never do that, we decided to move forward. And the last piece of the puzzle, I guess, was we had contacted FedEx Custom Critical. Now, we could have went and done this with any carrier that is out there, but surprisingly enough, all the people that I had made contact with on this forum that drove straight trucks all drove for FedEx Custom Critical.
At the time.
So it was the carrier that I was most familiar with. They had a good reputation. I mean, it's FedEx. You know, FedEx is everywhere. I used to make a point of that. Hey, look, FedEx, FedEx, FedEx. They're everywhere. And they are. Seriously. Just look around. They're everywhere. And so we had made a decision to go with FedEx. So we got our paperwork in order.
And the icing on the cake was that we went to the expo.
Yeah, the Expediters Online sponsors every year a conference, get-together, truck show.
Workshop? I don't know.
It's
conference.
Called, the Expedite Expo. And they put this on every year. There's usually around 5,000 to 6,000 people show up. There's usually trucks there, carriers. A lot of people that we knew were actually at these Expedite Expo, and we got to meet some of the people that I had talked to online. It's the first time I've ever met them.
And some of them were workshop leaders, and
some of them were teaching classes, and so it was a really neat thing. So Judy and I went to the expo. We got to meet a lot of people, saw a lot of things, and we basically decided, yeah, this is what we're going to do.
One of those things that conferences do, which gets you all excited about getting started into something, and that's what that did for me. You know,
right.
I like conferences and workshops.
She came away, she's like, let's go do this.
Let's do it.
And to make a long story short, yeah, that's what we did.
That's how we decided to get started.
But so we got into that. What we're going to do with this whole series is we'll just have one video sort of naturally feed into the other. So the next video is going to be about us going through and the actual steps, the things that we actually had to do in order to prepare to get started, like getting our CDL and finding someone to drive for and actually going up and signing up with FedEx and all that entail. So we will get to that in the next video. Thank you for joining us. If you like this type of content and you like this series, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And what do you do with the little notification bell?
Ring that notification
bell. Hit that notification bell so you'll get notified of anything coming up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.
So long, everybody.
Good night.